And our correspondent Simon Marks is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. for more on that. Simon, to what extent are the experts optimistic about the downward trend continuing, specifically in the epicenter, New York?
Well, I think that there is optimism now because there have now been several days of these downward trends, day after day, fewer deaths than the previous day, still, of course, in the several hundred range. And, of course, nationally, the death toll perilously close now to 55,000. So the picture is still extremely grim, but on a progressive basis, it becomes slightly less grim with each passing day. And there are other indications that things may be moving in the right direction slowly in New York. The demand for hospital beds by new patients is falling every day. The demand for space in intensive care units by new patients is falling every single day. So Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York is cautiously, with the emphasis on that word cautiously, optimistic that things may be moving down a path where at least some businesses may be able to get back to work over the course of the next few weeks. But, you know, he's been at consistent pains to say to people in New York, do not relax your guard, do not think for a moment this means that you can stop engaging in the social distancing guidelines that the state has implemented, and currently, of course, the stay-at-home orders. And I think broadly, New York and America are entering a slightly new phase of all of this, in which people are very, very eager to abandon some of the restrictions that have been put into place. But there's a massive danger in doing that, which is that it then sparks a second wave of infections, which is why some of President Trump's top public health officials, Dr. Deborah Birx over the weekend, Dr. Anthony Fauci before her, are warning that this new series of behavioral modes here in the United States, they are likely to remain in force for many months to come.
Right, and experts are already warning about a second wave in the United States. At the same time, we're seeing anti-lockdown protests. What's your overall assessment of the easing of lockdown measures? New York has already announced that there will be a gradual lifting of the measures, and 15th of May will see the state reopening.
Look, I think Americans are impatient to get back to work, and they're generally not particularly patient with being told how to behave or being told what to do by their respective state and national governments. So that sort of frontier spirit has been fueling some of the demonstrations and the protests that we've seen in various parts of the country. Some governors in some states are moving very rapidly, even too rapidly, even for President Trump in the case of the Republican governor of the state of Georgia, to put people back to work. Others, particularly in those states where you've seen epicenters of COVID-19, New York, of course, Los Angeles out in California, Houston down in Texas, New Orleans in Louisiana, they're moving a little bit slower because they understand the dangers that that second wave poses. But, you know, when you look at the pictures this weekend, for example, from Huntington Beach in California, absolutely packed with beachgoers this weekend. I can tell you that here in Washington, D.C. this morning, there was more of a rush hour than we've seen for the last 6 or 7 weeks here. Now, it's still not at standard daily levels, but there's definitely more cars on the streets now, more people returning to their offices down in the centre of the city, and more people going out and about, getting exercise, going to grocery shops and that kind of thing. There's just more of a sense here, I think, that people's patience with all of this is wearing thin, and there is a huge risk in that, say the President's public health advisors, and how they're going to mitigate against those risks in the weeks and months ahead is really going to be the story of whether there is a big second wave here.
Right, we're going to leave it there for the moment. Simon Marks, thanks very much for sharing those perspectives and the latest coming in. Disruptions in the food distribution system, meanwhile, have led to American farmers destroying crops. Now, farmers and state officials are looking for ways to tackle this emerging crisis. Our next report tells you more.